Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking you somewhere that, it exists right now in 2024, but it feels totally removed from it.
It really
We're
does.
diving into Cuba, the legendary land of, rum, rumba, and revolution. It's a place most of us have seen in these incredible photos, classic cars, sun-drenched colonial buildings.
And that's the image, right? The island preserved in amber. But as our source material for today, a whole stack of recent travel accounts and logistical guides makes really clear Cuba is a place of immense complexity.
It's challenging.
It's vibrant and beautiful, yes, but the actual act of traveling there now is demanding. It's rewarding for sure, but also really thought-provoking.
And that complexity is exactly what we need to unpack today. Our goal is to give you the shortcut to being truly informed about a trip to Cuba, to go way beyond the glossy travel brochures.
Right. We've looked at all these real-world accounts, the logistical workarounds you absolutely have to know, the cultural immersion, and I think most importantly, the ethical and financial side of visiting Cuba right now.
So our mission today is to answer one central question.
Is it worth it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is this completely unique experience with all its hurdles, its economic strangeness, and the forced digital disconnect, is it truly worth the effort for a modern traveler?
To figure that out, we're going to go step by step. We'll start with the non-negotiables, the money, the visas, and then move to where you should ethically sleep, what you'll actually eat, and the cultural experiences that will, really define your memory of the island.
It sounds like planning is absolutely mandatory. So to do that right, we have to start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Let's unpack this, starting with what you call the logistical gauntlet.
Absolutely. Because before you get to the mojitos and the music, you have to get through this trio of friction points: cash, categories, and connectivity. These are the hurdles that define Cuban travel, especially for Americans.
And if you get them wrong...
Your trip is derailed almost immediately.
Okay, so let's start with the most confusing one, the visa and the whole U.S. embargo situation. For a lot of nationalities, getting a tourist card for Cuba is pretty simple, right? You just get it through the airline.
It's straightforward for most of the world. But the second you're holding an American passport, or even just flying from the U.S., the rules change completely.
Because of the embargo.
Exactly. The U.S. Treasury Department technically bans travel for tourism. So you can't just go for a beach holiday in the typical sense. Your trip has to fall under one of 12 very specific approved categories.
And that's a crucial distinction, I imagine.
It dictates everything. It mandates a whole style of travel if you want to be compliant with U.S. law.
So which of these 12 categories is the one that most independent travelers actually use?
Well, the one almost all our sources focused on is called Support for the Cuban People.
Which sounds kind of vague.
It sounds vague, but in practice it's very specific. It's much more than just a box you tick on a form. It fundamentally dictates how and where you spend every single dollar. It means you need to have a genuine, demonstrable commitment to supporting local private entrepreneurs. You have to be able to prove, if you were ever audited, that your itinerary was built around supporting the Cuban private sector, not the state.
So in practice, that means
Yeah.
choosing certain hotels and restaurants.
It means choosing private homes, the casas particulares, over the big government-run hotels. It means eating at private restaurants, the paladeres, instead of the official tourist spots. You're consciously directing your money away from the state and toward the people.
That's a really interesting point about risk. This is all self-reported, right?
Yeah.
You're just declaring that you fit the category.
It is. The risk isn't really on the island itself. The risk is the, however small, possibility of an audit by the U.S. government when you get back. And then you'd have to prove you were compliant.
So you need to keep records.
Precisely. The advice is to keep receipts from your casas and paladeres, keep a detailed itinerary, a log of your daily activities. It's a level of documentation that's, totally foreign to how most of us travel today. It basically turns your trip into a form of direct economic support.
Okay, so if that visa friction wasn't enough, this idea of supporting the people leads us right into the next huge hurdle.
Yeah.
Money.
Ah, yes. The golden rule of Cuban travel.
And we have to state this really clearly, right? Cuba is a cash society.
A total cash society. And when we say that, we mean there is zero functional digital banking for foreigners, especially anyone connected to the U.S. banking system. Your credit cards, your debit cards,
Yeah,
they just will not work.
not at all. No exceptions.
Virtually none. They won't work in the few ATMs you might see. They won't work in the hotels. They certainly won't work in a shop or a private restaurant, period.
And that has a huge implication.
It's profound. It means you must bring every single cent you plan to spend for the entire trip in physical cash. You have to budget meticulously before you even get on the plane.
So let's talk about that budget. What do the sources recommend? How much cash are we talking about for, say, a week?
For a comfortable mid-range trip, not including your flights, you should plan on about $100 to $150 per person per day.
Okay, so that would cover your room.
Right, a nice Casa Particular for $30 to $50 a night, a couple of good meals at Paladairs, some drinks, maybe a taxi or a museum entrance. So for a 7-day trip, you're carrying somewhere between $700 and $1,050 per person in cash.
That is a lot of physical cash to be carrying around. So what currency should you bring? I'd automatically think U.S. dollars, but that's not the recommendation, is it?
No, the sources are really clear on this. Because of all the sanctions, the US dollar can sometimes get hit with an extra fee, maybe 10%, or just a really bad exchange rate.
So it's better to bring euros or Canadian dollars.
Exactly. You'll often get a cleaner, better exchange rate. You bring those currencies, and then you exchange them for the local currency, which is the Cuban peso, the CUP.
And this is where things get really interesting. You call it the exchange dilemma, the official government rate versus the informal street rate.
This is the absolute core of the economic friction on the ground. You can go to an official government exchange house, a Cadeca. It's safe, it's legal, but the rate is terrible for you as a traveler.
But there's another option.
There is. You very quickly learn about the informal market rate. It's offered by private individuals, and it is significantly better.
How much better are we talking to? Do the sources give actual numbers?
They do, and this is critical. The informal or street rate can offer you 2.5 to 3 times more Cuban pesos for your euro or dollar than the official rate.
Wait, 3 times?
Up to 3 times. Think about that. Your spending power literally triples if you can navigate this exchange safely.
Wow. That's a staggering difference. It basically determines whether your trip is affordable or incredibly expensive.
It's everything. And this is where the whole idea of support for the Cuban people comes back in a very practical way.
Through your casa host.
Yes. Your Casa Particular host is your trusted lifeline here. The sources all say they play this vital role in helping you exchange money safely at the good informal rate. They connect you to the real local economy.
So your host is the gatekeeper, not just to a place to sleep, but to your entire trip being financially viable.
Exactly. If you try to do it on the street by yourself, you can get scammed. But going through your host, you build this immediate relationship of trust. You're maximizing your ability to spend money with the very people you're there to support.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so you've got your visa category sorted. You've got a wallet full of euros. What's the third logistical hurdle?
Connectivity. Or, more accurately, the profound lack of it. You cannot just turn on your phone's data roaming. It won't work.
So how do you get online?
The whole system is centralized through the state telecom company, ITEXA.
Yeah.
You have to physically buy Wi-Fi cards. They're literally little scratch-off cards with a username and password.
A scratch-off card, like for a lottery ticket.
Pretty much. And they're good for a certain number of minutes or hours. Typically, an hour of internet costs about $1 or $2 US.
And where do you buy them?
Well, you can buy them at official ITEXA offices, but the lines can be really long. You can wait for half an hour, and you can't just buy a huge stack of them either.
So once you have your precious scratch-off card, you can't just use it in your room.
No. You have to find a public Wi-Fi park. The sources say they're instantly recognizable.
Okay.
You just look for the cluster of people, young and old, all huddled together staring at their phones. That's the hotspot. You log in, use your minutes, and then you're done. The connection is slow, it's public. It is not for remote working.
Which leads to the most critical piece of pre-trip prep.
You must download everything you could possibly need before you leave home.
Offline maps.
Offline maps are a lifesaver. The app maps.me is mentioned again and again. You need your accommodation details, your host's phone number, an offline translation app. You can't just look it up when you're there.
So the deep insight here is that this lack of internet forces you to be present, right? It slows everything down.
It does. It forces a kind of digital detox, which can be amazing. But that benefit only works if you've done the practical planning. If you haven't downloaded your map, it's not a detox, it's a disaster.
It's a high barrier to entry, but also a cultural reset.
Absolutely.
So we've navigated the gauntlet. You've got your cash, you've got your downloaded map. The next big decision you make seems to shape the entire rest of the trip, where you stay.
This is what we're calling the ethical and experiential core of the trip. And we would argue this choice is the single most important decision you'll make. It's not just about a bed.
And the sources are completely united on this, aren't they? The
Okay.
definitive choice is the casa particular.
100%. It translates to private house, and it's basically the Cuban version of a B&B or a homestay. They're easy to spot. You look for a little blue anchor sign outside the door.
And this ties directly back to that support for the Cuban people mandate.
It's the most direct and powerful way to fulfill it. Your money goes straight into the pocket of a Cuban family. It bypasses the big state-owned hotel corporations and actually benefits the local economy.
But crucially, it's not just an ethical choice. The sources say the experience is just better.
It's vastly superior.
Mm.
Your casa host is so much more than a landlord. They're your concierge, your fixer, your lifeline. They fill all the gaps left by the challenging state infrastructure.
A lifeline. I like that framing. What kind of specific things are they helping with?
Everything we just talked about. They'll help you with that safe currency exchange. They'll give you honest recommendations for the best private restaurants, the paladares that you'd never find on your own.
And travel between cities.
This is critical. They arrange the shared taxis, the colectivos, which are essential for getting between places like Havana and Viñales. The official buses can be slow and unreliable. Your host finds you a fair price and a safe driver.
The sources really highlight this personal connection. They mention a host in Viñales named Elena who would just sit with her guests and share stories about her family and daily life. You don't get that at a hotel front desk.
No, you don't. That's the genuine cultural exchange that transforms a trip. And it often starts first thing in the morning with breakfast.
The breakfasts get rave reviews.
Consistently the best meal of the day. They describe these amazing spreads of fresh tropical fruit, guava, mango, papaya, that taste better than anything you can buy in a supermarket back home. Plus fresh bread, eggs, and that incredibly strong, sweet Cuban coffee.
And this all stands in stark contrast to the state-run hotels.
The critique of the state hotels is pretty blunt. They're often dated, maybe the hot water is inconsistent, the service can be indifferent, the food is almost universally described as mediocre.
And they isolate you.
They're designed to. They create a tourist bubble. A casa is often cleaner, cheaper, and it immerses you in the real Cuba. It is the absolute linchpin of a successful trip.
And that linchpin then sets you up for the next challenge.
Yeah.
The food. This is what you call the culinary contradiction.
Yes, because Cuban food, well, it has a reputation, doesn't it?
For being a little bland, maybe repetitive.
And that reputation isn't totally unfair. You have to set realistic expectations. This is a direct result of decades of economic hardship and food shortages. The state rationing system puts huge constraints on what chefs can get.
And you see that reflected in the state-run restaurants.
You do. They often serve just basic sustenance, dry chicken or pork with some plain rice, beans, and maybe some sad-looking boiled cabbage. It's fuel. It's not a culinary experience. But just like with the casas, the private sector is driving a renaissance here with the paladares, the private restaurants.
This is where the magic happens.
This is it. These private chefs are incredibly resourceful. They're driven by competition. They have to create high-quality, innovative meals to attract travelers. They're often sourcing ingredients from, let's say, gray markets to get the best produce or fish.
The existence of a good paladar is a story of resilience in itself.
It really is. It's a culinary scavenger hunt, and again, you need your casa host to give you the real, up-to-date recommendations.
So what are the must-try dishes? If you find a good paladar, what should you order?
The national dish is ropa vieja. It translates to old clothes.
Which doesn't sound very appetizing.
It doesn't, but it's this incredibly rich, comforting dish of shredded beef, slow-cooked in a tomato-based sauce with peppers and onions. When it's done right, it's so tender and flavorful. It's the ultimate Cuban comfort food.
And what about seafood?
Absolutely. Especially in coastal towns like Trinidad, you can get amazing fresh-caught fish or lobster, often just grilled simply with garlic and lime. It's simple, clean, and delicious.
And for a quick lunch?
The Cubano, the Cuban sandwich. The sources point out that the authentic version is actually simpler than the big overloaded Miami style. It's usually just roast pork, ham, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard on pressed Cuban bread. But it's fantastic.
You also have to talk about the fruit and the drinks.
The fruit is on another level. The pineapples, the mangoes, just incredible. Which means the fresh fruit juices, the batidos, are a daily necessity.
A way to stay hydrated in the heat.
And they're delicious. And then there's the coffee. It's strong, it's dark, and it's usually served very, very sweet. It has enough power to, as one source put it, jumpstart a car.
So the final verdict on the food is that it's worth it if you do your homework.
Exactly. You have to be deliberate, stick to the paladars your host recommends, manage your expectations, and embrace the simple, rustic, delicious flavors.
Okay, so once you've got your logistics, your lodging, and your food strategy locked in, you can finally just experience the place. This brings us to the must-do activities.
And we've organized this across the 3 key locations from the sources: Havana, the city; Viñales, the countryside; and Trinidad, the coast.
Let's start in Havana, the chaotic, beautiful heart of it all.
It's one of the most intoxicating cities on Earth. It's this incredible mix of color, crumbling beauty, and just constant rhythmic motion.
And the first thing to do is just get lost.
Yes. Just wander through old Havana, Habana Vieja. The sources say the real joy is the sensory immersion, getting lost in the cobblestone streets, seeing the laundry hanging from balconies, hearing the music spilling out of doorways.
It's like walking onto a movie set.
A living, breathing one. You can feel the history in the peeling paint, its centuries of elegance with decades of neglect layered on top.
And that wandering will lead you to the big public squares, like Plaza Vieja.
And the advice there is not to just snap a photo and leave. It's to sit down, find a bench in the shade, grab a drink, and just absorb the atmosphere. Listen to the street musicians. They're the soundtrack of the city.
And then there's the one thing that's super touristy,
Yeah.
but everyone says you have to do it.
The classic car cruise.
It's a cliche, but it's worth it.
100% worth it. You negotiate an hour-long tour in a bright pink 57 Chevy convertible. It's essential.
And what's the best route?
You want a loop that goes past the Capitolio through Revolution Square, and then, this is the key part, cruising along the seawall, the Malecon, ideally around sunset. It gives you this incredible sense of the city's scale and its soul.
Just remember to negotiate the price first.
Always. Aim for around $40 to $60 for the hour.
But Havana isn't just a museum. There's a really vibrant contemporary culture scene there too, right?
Yes, and the epicenter of that is the Fábrica de Arte Cubano, or FAC. It is an unmissable stop.
Tell me about it. It's a converted factory.
A huge old cooking oil factory that's been transformed into this multi-level art gallery, nightclub, performance space, and cinema. It's this amazing, sprawling complex.
And it showcases modern Cuban art.
Exactly. Photography, sculpture, live jazz, modern dance. It's a necessary counterpoint to all the history. It shows you that Cuban culture is alive and innovating right now. The atmosphere is incredibly cool.
Okay, so from the energy of Havana, we move to the countryside, to Viñales.
A complete change of pace. It's a few hours drive, and suddenly you're in this UNESCO World Heritage Site that is just breathtakingly beautiful.
This is where you see the Mogotes.
Yes, these incredible sheer limestone mountains that just straight up from the flat valley floor. It looks almost prehistoric. And the earth is this rich, deep red color.
And that's where they grow the tobacco.
The best tobacco in the world. And the absolute must-do activity here is a tobacco farm tour, which fits perfectly with the support for the Cuban people idea.
And you often do this on horseback.
Which is an experience in itself, riding through the valley. A local farmer guides you through the whole process, the growing, the drying in the rustic curing barns, the fermentation. It's fascinating.
And they explain the economics of it, right?
They do. They have to sell 90% of their crop to the state at a fixed low price. But they get to keep the other 10% to sell directly to visitors like you.
And that 10% is where the real cultural reward is.
It is. At the end of the tour, you sit down with the farmer, and he'll hand-roll a fresh cigar for you right there.
And they have a special local tip.
Dip the end in a little bit of local honey before you smoke it. It cuts the harshness. And honestly, it's a better, fresher, and way cheaper cigar than the official state-run cohibas you'd buy in a shop. It's a perfect, authentic experience.
Okay, so from the green valleys to the coast, the colonial jewel of Trinidad.
Trinidad is like old Havana's smaller, more relaxed, and almost perfectly preserved cousin. Another UNESCO site. The cobblestone streets, the candy-colored houses. The sources just call it painfully beautiful.
It's stunning during the day, but the sources say the real magic happens after dark.
It transforms, and it's all centered around the Casa de la Música. But it's not a club.
It's the steps.
It's the big, wide stone steps next to the main building. They become this natural amphitheater. Every night, local bands play live salsa and son cubano right there under the stars.
And everyone just gathers there?
The whole town comes alive. You grab a mojito or a cold crystal beer, and you just sit on the steps and listen. The energy is infectious.
And people dance.
Locals, tourists, old, young,
Yeah.
everyone gets up and dances. It's this incredible, joyful, communal experience that just perfectly captures the spirit of the country.
So Havana, Viñales, Trinidad, that sounds like a perfect cross-section of Cuba. But just as important as what to do is what not to do. The skip list.
This is section 5. It's about saving you time, money, and frustration. First up, as we've said, skip most state-run restaurants. And I'd add most state-run museums to that list as well.
Why the museums?
Many of them are described as just dusty propaganda halls. The experience of the living culture on the streets, the music, the people, the architecture is just so much more powerful than the often biased exhibits behind glass.
I would also say emphatically skip the all-inclusive resorts. Places like Veradero.
Absolutely. They're just tourist bubbles. They're totally isolated from the real Cuba that you're there to see and support. If you want a great beach, go to a local one like Playa Ancon near Trinidad instead.
The sources also warn about being aware of some minor scams. The most common one is the milk for my baby scam.
Right. Someone, often a woman, will ask you to buy expensive formula from a specific shop, saying she can't afford it. The reality is she gets a kickback from the shop owner.
So how do you handle that?
Just be aware, not paranoid. A polite but firm no, gracias, is all you need. If you want to help, buy some food yourself at a market and give it directly to someone.
And the final thing to skip, overscheduling.
This is so important. Travel in Cuba is slow. The roads are not great. The cars are old. A 3-hour journey on a map can easily take 5 hours.
So the recommendation is to focus on just 2 or 3 cities and embrace that slowness.
Exactly. Build in buffer time. Don't try to cram too much in. Allow for the unexpected. That's where the best moments happen.
So after navigating all of that, what's the lasting impression? What's the real vibe of the trip?
The one word that comes up over and over again is resilience and contradiction. You see the crumbling buildings and the empty shelves, but it's set against this incredible, vibrant human spirit.
That resilience comes through in the joy.
It does. There's music everywhere. People are incredibly educated and want to talk. There's this warmth and generosity that exists despite all the hardship. The country basically runs on human connection, not on Wi-Fi.
And that digital disconnect becomes a huge part of the experience itself.
It's transformative. You are forced to put your phone away. You have to make eye contact, listen to the music, slow down. The lack of digital convenience forces you into genuine human interaction.
It's a place of contradictions then. Beautiful and decaying, joyful and frustrating.
Simple and deeply complex, all at the same time.
Which brings us back to our ultimate question. After all of this, the logistical friction, the ethical choices, the intense planning, is a trip to Cuba really worth it?
You know, for the traveler looking for an easy, predictable, seamless beach vacation, the answer is no. Absolutely not. Go to Cancun. Cuba will only frustrate you. But for the adventurous, open-minded traveler, the person who is looking for a challenge, for cultural depth, for real human engagement, the verdict from all the sources is a resounding yes, 100% worth it.
It's not a vacation, it's a journey.
It's a profound journey. It's powerful because it forces you to engage, to slow down, and to see a country and its people with incredible grace and resilience. It will stick with you long after you get home.
And that's our deep dive into the beautiful, complex, and challenging reality of travel in Cuba today. We covered the logistics of cash and categories, the ethics of staying in casas, the hunt for great paladares, and the unmissable culture of Havana, Viñales, and Trinidad.
And I think the biggest takeaway really is that idea of resilience and the forced digital detox. The most valuable part of the trip is seeing a society that thrives on human connection, in the almost total absence of the digital convenience we all take for granted.
Which leads to one final provocative thought for you to take away. Since a trip to Cuba forces you to live without constant Wi-Fi, the sources make you wonder, what other areas of your own life, your work, your relationships, your community, are maybe running on the thin convenience of technology rather than the effort and depth of real human connection?
It's a challenging question. And Cuba offers a really fascinating, vibrant counterexample to our hyper-connected lives.
Thank you for tuning in to The Deep Dive. You can find links to more information, including some suggestions for casas and paladares, in our show notes.
Until next time, pack your bags, pack your cash, and most importantly, pack your curiosity. Safe travels.